Sassaquin Pond has been an oasis in the North End for generations. It's originally started up as almost like a summer colony over 100 years or so ago, and then as development moved toward this part of the city after the Second World War, it really started to fill up as a big integrated part of New Bedford's neighborhood fabric. And it's such a great place. The pond is one of these places where when you take someone from outside of New Bedford, and you bring them here, and they say, "Oh my God, I'm amazed," and they'll say things like, "I never knew this was part of New Bedford." And my response when I hear something like that was, "Well, why not, right?" But the reality is, there are a lot of people, even people who live in the city, who are unaware of the pond and just how beautiful it is, and the community that's grown up around it over the years. And it remains beautiful, not just because of what nature gave us, but because it has such a strong, it has such strong neighborhood support. So the folks that you see right off to my left are the ones who deserve tremendous credit for stewarding this place as a natural resource, as a neighborhood asset. And so, you know, it is they set such a wonderful example for the rest of the city in that way. But there is a really high, and I think there's a part of me that, and there's a part of them that doesn't want to have a press conference here because they like the idea of not being discovered. I get that, but this is such a wonderful neighborhood in so many ways, and it is really important to talk a little bit about what we've done in the way of environmental conservation here that is directly connected to neighborhood quality of life. So we've had many discussions over the years. In fact, not just me, but my predecessors over a long period of time. Folks like Paul Tatro and so many others can give you the long history of the work done on the pond and many of the things that the neighborhood has wanted to see done. But it is really important for the health of the neighborhood and for the health of the ecosystem here that this pond remain clean. And it is a challenge in that it has been a challenge in that development has led to pollution. So runoff from the developed neighborhood, from the lawns and from along the roadways, tracks right into the pond. The pond is sort of like a bowl in this part of the city. It's a glacial pond, and lots, or kettle pond, I guess they're called. They were left by glaciers. And so what we have to do, we want people to have a vibrant neighborhood, but we also want to make sure that the existence of the neighborhood itself doesn't lead to a contaminated pond. And so that's where we've done a great deal of work over the last few years, putting in things like head walls and we're up to like 16 new tree wells that collect water, collect runoff so that it doesn't end up in the pond. And what we're announcing today is the installment of a device that we think will greatly enhance the water quality in the pond. And it's kind of got a funny name. It's a jellyfish, sort of. It has to have a good name because it's just this big filter, right? So it's got to have a catchy name. But it's made by this company called Contech, Contech, and it's an engineering company that's in the business of doing these things. If you peek down in the manhole, it doesn't look like a jellyfish, so sorry to spoil it, but that's what they're called. But the neat thing is that it's part of a collection system that that really sucks up all the bad stuff, whether it's garbage or if it's nitrates or oils or other hydrocarbons that get into the pond and either kill stuff in the pond or cause other things to grow out of control, like algae and other things. So it keeps it clean, and it'll enhance the overall water quality, and again, the quality of the neighborhood, which not just the folks to my left care about, but the whole city should care about, because this is a great resource for everybody. So we have a few of the details. I'll offer a few of the details of the device. So it treats, just for the record, 154 gallons of water per minute. It is a state-of-the-art filtration system that removes, as I said, small and large things, trash, oil, debris, silt, nitrogen, metals, and it removes about 80% of the copper, which is also a contaminant. And it's all part of the 5-year long-term control plan for water improvement here at Sassaquin. And it's also in conjunction with, as part of that plan, a lot of the, again, the infrastructure work that's been done over the last few years. So I just want to say a couple of thanks. I want to say thanks to all the guys at DPI who are involved in this. Manny Silva is heading up DPI and doing so very skillfully these days. He doesn't want to go in front of the camera, so I'm not going to single him out too much. But know that Manny and Dave Fredette and the whole crew have done terrific work in installing these things and caring for the pond. Their predecessors, Zeb Aruda and Ron LaBelle, who always used to say, well, I grew up on the pond. It's somewhat accurate, not entirely accurate, but the sentiment is there. Ron definitely, and a lot of folks here know Ron very well. Ron definitely cared about this place as well and sets a number of these things in motion. So, and the other thing I just want to say, I want to say thanks to everybody here. I want to say thanks to, you guys set a really good example for neighborhood stewardship. It isn't, you know, a lot of times, you know, from where I sit, it's sometimes the city hall has to initiate a lot of stuff. And here, and it's, you guys aren't the only neighborhood. I'm not going to single people out. I'm just going to single you guys out. You really care about the place. You take steps on your own initiative to make it better, and that just sets a great example for the rest of the city. So, anyway, I wanted to highlight that as much as I wanted to tout the device and how that's we think it's going to be very successful. I wanted to highlight all of your good work. So too many people to thank along the way. But I did, I don't know if there's anybody who wants to come up and say if you want, Paul Tatro or Mike Fry or anybody. No jokes. Mike just retired from Vogue, and you know he's got a lot of time on his hands, and so it's given him time to write a few jokes, and something I'm sure some of them will be at my expense, but I'm willing to take that risk, Mike.
It's a good thing. The mayor has made it very clear that there'll be no jokes, so I'll go along with that. I'm recently retired, but if I had gotten my signatures certified in time, I'd be running for mayor at this time. And John would be sweating a little bit more than as he is today, although he is in the shade. But years ago, when it was just Jon Mitchell, not Mayor Mitchell, he made the commitment over at the Tatro's residence, out on their back deck, that this would be one of his primary issues, was making sure this natural resource is preserved. And as true to his word, over the years, and hopefully will continue on, we'll hold his feet to the fire after the next election also, to make sure we do continue. And I just want to say the biggest issue we have is the nitrates. And if we can get people to understand that live in the watershed, we're not talking just around the pond. It goes north all the way to Vibra Hospital, east, we're on the other side of Acushnet Avenue, and south beyond Cherokee Street. All of those homes that use fertilizer on their lawns is a major detriment to the pond. So in trying to preserve this natural resource for future generations, we just like to have everybody cooperate and just use water. We'll work out a lot better. But thanks again, Mayor Mitchell, for your diligence, and we appreciate all your help. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. All right, thank you, Mike. All right, do we have, I don't know if we have any questions, Mike, you have any? Or?
I was just wondering when kind of the problem was discovered, and then what kind of happened from there to get to today?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, Andy, you want to just weigh in on that? I know you don't want to come up to the mic. Everybody shut your cameras off.
No. Well, I think it's been going on for a few years that we discover, you know, for quite a while, and we've been trying to come up with different ways to solve. The first ones was the tree wells that we tried to do, and this basically is going to do the same thing that the tree wells does, except we install one of these units and takes care of, you know, one run instead of every catch basin has those tree wells. So the problem has been here for a few years, and we're trying to, the last 3 or 4 years, we're trying to do different things to try to solve it.
Is the filter only active during rain when the filters rain, or is it actively filtering any other sort of water flowing down?
No, it's active at all times now. It's been installed, so anything that goes through that manhole, it'll have the filtration system work on it. Yeah.
What's to maintain? Is someone going to come clean it out?
Yes. No, that's they're very easy to remove, those tree filters, and we'll be able to take them out and clean them and put them back in. If they need to be replaced, we'll replace them.
And this may be a question we've don't know the answer to, but Mike was talking about the nitrates and fertilizer. Is there a way to, is there a certain type of fertilizer that's, you know, safer than others or something like that, or?
Mike, what do you use on your lawn?
Water.
See, there you go,
That's it.
water.
I don't use anything
Are
at
there
all.
any safe fertilizers or not? Okay.
Nothing at all.
Okay.
Nope.
He puts manure on
I have a
his lawn.
sprinkler system, that's all that runs. I won't go to the manure issue at this time.
Yeah, all right, thank you, yeah, thank you.
Is one filter,
Many silver.
Very sober.
is one filter the plan, or will there be more of these installed elsewhere?
Yeah, I think that, I think in general what we'll do is we'll see what this does in the way of reducing the levels of contaminants and then take it from there, you know, so if there's more needed, then yeah, we'll proceed, yeah. No, it's good, real good question, yeah. I mean, that might be enough, it might not be, so then we'll just, we'll move on to the, you know, to the next spot. There may be other spots where it could happen.
So the water that's collected coming down the street comes out of this pipe here, goes into the sump down there, and the solids will stay down there. And these 3 filters is 1, 2, 3 filters. Water comes out of these 3 holes through the filters, and then out. This is the outfall pipe here, which heads down into the pond.
We had done some tree wells on the other 2. I think there's 2 other branches of this. One that comes on Sassaquin, the other one is on Ivor Street. So this was the one that we hadn't done anything. It was the smallest one, so we'll try to test it here to see how it's going to work.
Yeah, and there's just to elaborate a little bit, there's ongoing testing of the pond, and there was a lot of testing a couple of years ago by UMass Dartmouth and the consultants that they hired with the city through a city grant, and that'll continue because we have to, it's just that by the nature of it, it has to be monitored all the time. So we'll continue to do that, but I think we're pretty confident that this is going to put a big dent in the contamination in the pond. All right. Who wants to go swimming? No.
Good day for us.
All right. Thanks, everybody.